Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting for Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021. I'll note that all commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Abley. Mr. Abley had a medical appointment this afternoon, could not be with us. County attorney's here, manager, clerk, and finance officer. Afternoon. Let me ask you to silence your mobile devices. If you've got gadgets that are going to make a noise, please take care of that right now, please. When you come to the podium, please be sure the microphone is on so that we can hear you and get good recording. You'll notice the room's been reset just slightly today to accommodate some of the new COVID restrictions. Again, thank you for your cooperation. Please maintain your distances, and if you need to wear a mask, please do so. All right, item 2, approval of agenda. Gentlemen, you've had the agenda for a few days. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I believe that's everybody. We have two presentations today. The first one will come from Animal Services. This will be a 6-month update for 2021. This will be presented by Caitlin Sotomayor, our Animal Services Director. Afternoon, Caitlin.
Good afternoon. Okay. We have our 6-month update that I have provided you with a comparison from the last several years as well to what we've been doing the last 6 months down at Animal Services. I am happy to go over this now with you guys, or if you want me to do it at the regular agenda meeting, I'm happy to do that as well, whatever you guys prefer.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. Gentlemen, you've had this information. Hope you've had a chance to look at it. Any questions for Caitlin at this time? She will plan to do that at our regular meeting. Any questions for Caitlin? Caitlin, maybe you can bring one of your furry friends with you to our meeting.
I would love to.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Nothing further. This item will remain on our agenda without objection. Item number 2 comes from Finance, recognition of employee for completion of the School of Government Certified Government Chief Information Officers Program. That's a mouthful, Margaret. Now, this will be presented by Margaret, our Deputy County Manager, Finance Director. Miss Margaret.
We'll make him do it both times. He can practice walking out. This class, as you said, is kind of a mouthful, and it's a lot of work that Scott went through. This was a 12-month program. He did 240 hours online, plus quite a bit of homework and other studies outside of it to get this certification. It's impressive that with everything else he had going on in the department, he was able to do this, and we're very proud of him. We'll have his actual diploma for the regular meeting to share with you, and we're just really proud and excited. This course goes over communication, emerging technology trends, risk assessment and management, acquisition, changes in management leadership, cybersecurity, and all kinds of legal issues related to technology.
All right. Thank you, Margaret, and congratulations, Scott. We look forward to a little more formal congratulations in a couple of weeks. But any questions for Margaret or Scott at this time? All right. Thank you very much. Hearing none, this item will remain on our presentation agenda. Item 4, scheduled public hearings. We have several public hearings this month. Item 1 is from BDI, Building Reuse Grant for Project Husky 2, and public hearing. This will be presented by Alan Wood, our BDI Director. Alan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is a continued growth in existing industry. It's Synergy Labs. This is a match by the town of Hildebrand, who is the applicant on this grant. It's been through the first phase with the Department of Commerce, and they've approved the application for $500,000. The application date is in August 25th, with an award date in October. This company grew almost 100% last year, and they just continue to add people and product to the line. And so as well as with all of these grants, There is a 5% local match, which will be split between the county and the town of Hildebrand. Is projected for 60 jobs, and each of these jobs pay above the county average wage, and they do provide at least half of the health care cost. So,
All right, thank you, Alan. Great news. Any questions for Alan on this project?
Mr. Chairman, had Alan, do you remember how much the other grant he got?
it was same size grant, and that one has already been completed. They hit their jobs number, and it's been closed out.
Yeah. And he's fulfilled all the requirements of that grant.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm tickled pink that he continues to grow in that part of our county.
Yes, sir.
And is getting quite a good reputation, so I really appreciate that he is growing and employing our people and improving our status in the eastern part of the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for Al? Comments? Hearing none, this item will remain on our public hearing agenda. Thank you, Alan. Item number 2, Community Development Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2021-09 in public hearing. This will be presented by Shane Frisbee, our interim planning director. Afternoon, Shane.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Burke County Community Development Department has received a request from Mary Gibbs to rezone an 8.8 acre parcel from its current rezoning, of residential 2 to the general business zoning district. The parcel identified as Reed 212 is located just outside of the Morganton city limits along NC 18 US 64 and does not currently have a 911 address. The parcel has 870 linear feet of road frontage and is located within the Quaker Meadows Township and Chesterfield Fire Districts and is next to an existing convenience store at 900 Lenore Road in Morganton. Records show that the parcel can be served by public water and private on-site septic. The area surrounding the parcel is identified as a secondary growth area in the county's strategic land use plan. There is a mix of residential and non-residential uses immediately around the parcel, and it is situated next to the property owned by Tyler Campbell that the board voted to rezone a portion of to general business at last month's regular meeting. The planning board has voted 5-1 to approve and recommend the rezoning request to the Board of Commissioners for their consideration. No one from the public spoke for or against the item at the planning board meeting. However, there was one email submitted in opposition to the rezoning. It is the staff's opinion that this rezoning request would not change the overall character of the area. There are several parcels in the immediate vicinity zoned general and neighborhood business, as well as an existing gas station and convenience store. The mixed residential use of the area is in keeping with the goals outlined in the strategic land use plan for this area. Thank you very much, and I welcome any questions you may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Shane. Gentlemen, any questions for Shane on this item?
Mr. Chairman, we had, you said one in opposition. Do you know what their opposition was? What was I read it, but for the life of me, I can't think what it was right at the moment.
I believe the person opposing the rezoning to general business is one of the parcels behind there. As you'll see, there are 2 parcels behind the one in question. They kind of form a piece of candy corn with 3 sections. So it would be one of the 2 at the top that was opposed to this particular parcel going to general business.
And this property is owned by an out-of-state person, right? Not out of state, yeah, out of state. She's Myrtle Beach, isn't she?
I believe that's where she is, yes.
Well, yeah, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions? Hearing none, this item will remain on our public hearing agenda. Thank you, Shane. Item number 3 also comes from Community Development Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2021-10 in public hearing. Again, Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Community Development Department has received a request from Mickey Evans to rezone 2 parcels totaling 1.14 acres from their current rezoning of Residential 2 to the General Business Zoning District. The 2 parcels have been combined into a single parcel. However, the property records have not been updated yet to reflect this change. The parcels are identified as Read 59578 and Read 59577 and do not currently have 911 addresses. They are located at the end of Ashton Drive, a private dead-end street with a 45-foot right-of-way. They are also adjacent to Mr. Evans' contracting business located at 2646 Raintree Street in Connolly Springs. Mr. Evans is requesting the rezoning with the intent of establishing a storage yard for his contracting business on the property. Records indicate that his existing business is being served by public water and private on-site septic. The area surrounding the parcel is predominantly high-density residential in character. The only non-residential uses in the immediate area are Mr. Evans' contracting business, Zone General Business, and another adjacent parcel on the corner of nearby Eichard Roadhis Road, which is zoned industrial. The county's strategic land use plan identifies this area as a rural agricultural area, which is a designation given to any area outside of the primary and secondary growth areas. Mr. Evans' business has long been established at its current location, but is also surrounded by single-family dwellings. The rezoning request originated from a complaint from a neighbor when Mr. Evans expanded his business onto the properties in question. The code enforcement investigation of the complaint found that this new contractor storage yard on the property was in violation of the R2 zoning allowances. This prompted Mr. Evans to seek a rezoning to bring the storage yard into compliance. The question at the heart of this rezoning request is whether the proposed storage yard will have a negative impact on the surrounding property owners. On one hand, the land use plan allows for a variety of residential and non-residential uses, and Mr. Evans' existing business has been at its current location for a long time. On the other hand, the area has become a dense cluster of single-family homes, and even with the screening requirements, the daily operations of the contractor storage yard could bring additional impacts that did not previously exist, such as dust, odor, and noise. The Planning Board voted 4-2 to approve and recommend the rezoning request for the board for consideration. There were no public comments for or against the request at the meeting. However, the Planning Board was presented with an email opposing the rezoning. Thank you very much, and I welcome any questions you may have on this item.
Thank you, Shane. Gentlemen, you've heard the information. Any questions for Shane on this item?
Mr. Chairman, more of a comment than a question. As I understand it, Shane, that this is just to bring in compliance more than anything else. I was a small young lad when his dad developed that development there. And he's just trying to get in compliance with that 2 pieces of property that has been what it is for years. So, gentlemen, I support that change. It's just compliance.
Shane, the email that we received from Terry Swanson has asked that she obviously was against the rezoning request. And she asked that he be allowed to erect a barrier. Can a barrier be erected, and would it be of any significance if he did erect a barrier close to her home?
We do require screening around as part of the zoning ordinance, but there are other considerations beyond just the visual impacts that could be mitigated with screening. As you can see in some of the photos, the contractor is moving and removing gravel, looks like kind of wash stone. I know they bring asphalt onto site to store it and then periodically mill it into something that's usable. There could be type 1 stone, it could be crusher run, which would have fines in it and would present dust that could come up in the air, as well as if you're familiar of having seen a dump truck dump material, when the gate swings back, it tends to slam pretty loudly metal on metal. So there are also noise impacts that would be, lessened by having some sort of physical barrier, say trees, but maybe not removed entirely.
So it appears there's nothing practical that he could do to eliminate some of the problems that Ms. Swanson thinks may occur.
There could be, screening I think would help substantially. Having a vegetative buffer would, with evergreens, would help keep the noise down on an annual basis. Some of the activity controls, depending on when they're moving material, may also help. So if it was primarily during work hours on the weekdays, that would definitely reduce the impact on any of the residential uses in the area. If, say, they had night operations where they had to move material in and out, that could have an impact. So there are some things to weigh out as far as how they use the land as well.
Do we have any reason to believe Ms. Swanson may have been talking to the applicant to see if they could work out something?
I am not familiar.
Okay.
Let me check with I'm not sure if they have been in discussion with that.
All right, that's good. Thank you very much.
Other questions, comment?
And kind of going with what Johnny's saying about the screening, looking at the picture, obviously, chain link fence, you can see dirt piled way above the sight line there. On the pictures that Mrs. Swanson had taken, how specific can we be on vegetation screening? What's the parameters we can set if we say, look, you know, fence is not going to get it done, but we want vegetation planted and we want it to be a certain height?
The existing zoning ordinance does lay out some of the requirements for vegetation, including that it must reach a height of 7 feet within 5 years. A fence would need to be 7 feet in height. It would have to have opaque slats or some sort of visual screening. So we do have requirements that that vegetation does have to meet a certain standard in a certain amount of time for growth.
Mr. Chairman, vegetation would be nice, but in his instance, 3/4 of an acre, if you plant trees that get 60, 70 feet tall, they also get 40, 50 feet wide, take up 2/3 of the areas that he is utilizing for parking trucks and trailers and that kind of thing. So if they require something, I'd say the 7-foot fence on top of what he already has would be the better resolve. So just my thoughts.
And Commissioner Taylor, there are also fencing options that you see used on, say, highways that are close to residential areas. There are types of barriers that they do use to particularly address sound as well as the visual impacts of roadways. So there may be options outside of just vegetative barrier that could help alleviate some of the concerns with sound as well. Those options are out there as well to be explored.
I realize there's certain trees, vegetation that doesn't grow quite as wide and big as other things. But some of the fields I farm, if I don't go every 5 years and cut it back 30 feet, I lose 30 feet of the field all the way around. So it can, farming and trees and trucking and trees just don't match.
I have heard that planting a tree is a lot like owning a puppy. They start small, and there is, that, but it's a lifetime commitment, and they do grow over time, and that does take change as well, and changing with that.
Got you.
Other questions, comments? All right, hearing none, this item will remain on scheduled public hearing agenda. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you very much.
This brings us to item 5, consent agenda. First item on the consent agenda is coming from the clerk, reappointment to the Burke County Smart Start. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to reappoint Julia Terrell, the DSS designee, to the Smart Start Partnership, Burke Partnership for Children Board of Directors to complete the remainder of a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2024.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Gentlemen, any question on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 2, appointments to Regional Aging Advisory Committee. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to remove Karen Robinson and Eleanor Summers from the Regional Aging Advisory Committee and thank them for their service. It's also to appoint Mary Wright to the committee, seat number 1, for the remainder of a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2023. And as a placeholder, to reappoint Stephanie Workman, seat number 4, for the remainder of a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2023, pending receipt of her application.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any question on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 3 comes from the clerk also, appointments and removal to the Animal Advisory Board. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to remove Megan Bradley from the Animal Advisory Board. She occupied seat number 1, but she has had some momentous life events recently and has not been able to comply with the county's attendance requirements. It's also a request to appoint someone to fill that vacancy for the remainder of a term ending July 31st, 2022. We do have one application on file at this time from Gwen Stevens. And I'm pleased to report that we received an application from Dr. Jennifer McGrady, a veterinarian, to fill vacant seat number 2 for the remainder of a term ending July 31st, 2023.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 4, appointment to Burke Senior Center Advisory Council. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. This is a request to reinstate Ms. Barbara Huffman to the Burke Morganton Senior Center Advisory Council, seat number 3, to complete a 2nd term ending March 31st, 2023. Her application was actually kind of MIA for a while, and we thought she wasn't interested, but she really is and is a good member. So we would like to get her back on that board.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any question on this item? Hearing none, item 4 will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 5 also from the clerk, removal or seat modification to the Planning Board. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Seat number 5 is occupied by Dorian Palmer. It represents the West and has a term expiration of September 30th, 2022. Mr. Palmer has moved from the West. He now resides in Conley Springs, which is the East. And when I wrote this up, we came up with 2 choices for the board. One, since he's no longer in the West, he could be removed. But because he is a good member and, you know, it's hard to find people to serve, we did put our heads together and came up with a good alternative, we believe. Seat number 7 is occupied by Joyce Cunahan. It's an at-large seat. And if we just change that seat, switch them, because Joyce lives in the West, if we flip-flop them, everybody could stay on the board and we wouldn't have to remove Mr. Palmer.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Gentlemen, you've heard this information. What's your thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question about that, Madam Clerk. Does that change the makeup of the board with that? Do we still have the same number, East and West, and then one at large?
Correct. That is based on the new zoning ordinance that was approved a couple months ago. So you would have 3 East, 3 West, and 1 at large, and Mr. Palmer would become the at large.
I gathered that. And we won't be back here in a couple of years changing it back.
No, because you'll still have 3. It just really changes it in our internal records. So you still have 3 East, 3 West, and 1 at large.
All right, thank you.
It also allows us to be able to track, so when somebody says, how long has so-and-so served, we can calculate that easy. Otherwise, we'd have to say, well, they served 1 year, you know, when they were in the West, and then they moved to the East, and we moved them up here, and then you got to go up here and count how many years they were in that seat. So this is much simpler and cleaner, and it benefits both parties in that board.
Okay. Other comments on this item? We good with that approach?
Absolutely. I think it makes sense. Yes.
All right, Madam Clerk, so with that adjustment as explained, then this item will remain on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Item number 6 on the consent agenda comes from the Fire Marshal, contract for fire protection services for Enola Volunteer Fire Department and Drowning Creek Volunteer Fire Department. Comes from Mike Willis. Mike, afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. It's the 10-year contract that we have for fire protection for the two districts. One's Enola and one's Drowning Creek. There was a couple of words changed in one of the paragraphs that Margaret needed to do for their audit requirements, and other than that, they should be the same as all the others are.
All right, thank you. Any questions on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain as it is on the consent agenda. Thank you. Item number 7 comes from General Services, Phase 2, HVAC controls at the Human Resource Center building. This comes from Mark Delahunt, our General Services Director. Afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm before you today to request approval of the proposal by Train USA for Phase 2 of the controls install at the HRC building, which is located on Parker Road. Phase 1 is currently being installed, and I checked with the installer today, and they're on track to finish by the end of the month. And if things go as I hope they will, they'll be able to roll right into Phase 2 install. That will depend on the availability of the components that are part of Phase 2, of course. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I have 2 questions, and one of them has to do with, did we let bids on this?
We did.
We did?
Yes, we did.
And they came in the lowest. And the second question is that they didn't do Phase 1, so they're now going to be able to do 1 and 2 together?
This bidding process took place before I got here, but they were bid together at the same time, and they were split out. One was going to be Phase 1 last budget year, and then Phase 2 this budget year, but they were bid, and they were bid together.
Well, Mark, I was trying to save us some money. I was thinking if I can do 1 and 2 together, they ought to be able to save some expenses and maybe do
Again, before my time.
So, but that's the reason for the questions.
Other questions? All right, hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Item number 8, IT comes from the Courthouse Security Camera Project, approval of contract with Sage Security. This comes from our IT manager, Scott Black. Scott?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. So the security camera system at the courthouse is well past end of life. Needed both the cameras and the recorders to be replaced for several years. Currently, that system is made up of 3 different systems of various age, probably over 15 years, some of those cameras in there. We also have an issue where we have a delay in the camera feed for some of the cameras where they're moving detainees around, and can be up between 5 to 20 seconds sometimes from live. So our thought was to go ahead and do a complete overhaul, the whole camera system in the building. It's 100 total cameras, and rewiring it, new recorders, upgrading the monitoring system in both the detention area and in the security office in the lobby, so that the sheriff's staff will be able to see cameras in any part of the building and all of that. Our plan is to tie this in with Sage Security Solutions, who did our access control system last year, and then just expand their contract to include these cameras. That way we can have one vendor that we go to for all the service and support on the camera system, and do that. And take any questions.
All right, thank you, Scott. Gentlemen, you've had this information. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I did have 2. I was going to ask you, my goodness, how many cameras was that? And it tells you in the information it's 100 counties as you read on through it. But I did have somewhat of a question about the warranty. It appears to be a little bit weak, Scott. Most of these types of installations come with a year and a year, your own parts and your own labor. And according to this document, that they're only warranting their work. including installation, for only 90 days. Is that normal for this type of installation, or?
Let's see. Was that in the first? Trying to look. I know that they've supported, like we did with the access control, and they supported the systems there for the first year, and then after the first year, we got the service plan, an annual service plan that covers 24/7 issues there.
The limited warranty, exclusive limited warranty is 9A. No, excuse me, it's 10A,
10A.
if you want to check.
Oh, okay, I see.
That just seems to be odd that warranty was no longer than 90 days to me.
Yeah, I think that's just a standard for the contract there. From what we've had with service calls and response from the access control system, we've had no response with them getting out and taking care of any issues that we've had. So that doesn't concern me with the quality of the company that we're getting.
Well, the reason for that question is not just because of the 90 days, but you're installing stuff that really doesn't move. It's not like a motor running. It's not, none of those things.
Sure.
It's usually connections. Now your camera will move, obviously, but it just seemed that was weak part of that contract, and you can check on it and see if that's standard for us till the time we meet again or whatever. But
Sure.
I would at least want it looked at. That seems awfully light to me.
Sure. We'll look into it.
Thank you.
Other concerns, questions? All right, hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Item number 9, JCPC appointments and removals to the JCPC. That will be presented by A.J. Catu, the administrator. Afternoon, A.J.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Juvenile Crime Prevention Council is requesting modification to their council appointments. Seat number 1, that was held by Dr. Swan, he has designated Sarah LaCroix to represent him, and Kay has received that application. Seat number 13 is Mackenzie Pritchard. She is leaving, going off to college, and therefore leaving the council. Seat number 17, our new health director, has recommended Tammy Miller as designee to this seat, and Kay has received that application as well. The council respectfully requests appointments and removals as noted.
All
Any
right.
questions? I'll be glad to.
Any questions, comments for this?
Not sure what we do.
Hearing none, we'll leave this item on the consent agenda. Thank you, A.J. Item number 10, also from JCPC, bylaws modification for review and funding applications. A.J.
At the recommendation of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council's Finance Committee, the council voted and is respectfully requesting your approval to revise and add section 13 and 14 of the funding policy of those bylaws. This requires that the programs requesting funding meet a deadline for their applications as well as a deadline for any revisions that are necessary. That was an oversight, not to make sure we could hold their feet to the fire on those revisions. It also allows for an automatic consequence to the funding if this does not happen. You'll notice that the recommended consequences are firm but fair and allow for the possibility, to forgive tardiness if a catastrophic event were to occur for the program or staff, like floods or pandemics. Not that anything like that would happen, but you never know. The Burke JCPC respectfully submits these revised funding policies of their bylaws for your consideration. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, A.J. Any questions on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, A.J.
Thanks so much.
Item number 11 comes from the sheriff, contract for inmate medical services. And I haven't seen the sheriff, I don't believe. Anybody here represent the sheriff? Mr. Manager, do you want to give him a buzz and while we'll carry on just to be sure he didn't slip or maybe he's tied up somewhere? We'll move on to item 12, Danny, Tax Department, Tax Collection Report for July 2021. Gentlemen, you've got this information in front of you. Was not quite ready when the agenda was put out, so if you want to take a look at it, please do. Danny?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I will make one quick correction on the summary of information. The period of time is July 1 of 2021 through July 31 of 2021, not June 30th of 22. Apologize for that error. Property tax, we're at 51.69% collected. Motor vehicle at 10.28% collected, which gives us a combined 47.4% of the budget collected. Delinquent taxes at 17.9%, late list penalties at 11.61%. And if we compare to the current levy, we're at 52.39% collected.
All right, thank you, Danny. Gentlemen, you've heard the information. Any questions for Danny on the collection report? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item 13 is release refund report for July 2021. Danny?
Yes, sir. Release refund report. We had releases in the amount of $24,088.71. We have $8,889.52 rebilled, which gave us a net release of $15,199.19. There were $98.63 in refunds. And then on the vehicle tax system, we had, I believe it was 2 refunds for the total amount of $311.08.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Gentlemen, any questions on the release refund report? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item 14, Tax Department Collections Annual Settlement Report for 2020 and 2021. Danny?
Yes, sir, gentlemen. Compliance of North Carolina General Statute 105-373 included are the amounts collected using the property tax system and the vehicle tax system for the county and fire districts. These amounts include current taxes, delinquent taxes, current and delinquent tax-related charges, vehicle taxes. The amounts collected for municipalities where the county tax collector also serves as a municipal collector are Conley Springs, Glen Alpin, Hildebrand, Longview, and Rhodhiss. This settlement also includes amounts charged back to the tax collector and the write-offs for the 2010 taxes and charges. The chargeback allows the tax collector to use enforced collection remedies on taxes for current and prior 10 years. The write-off removes the tax collector's responsibility to collect taxes 2010 and prior, where the tax collector cannot use these reinforced remedies. This is broken down into sections. I'll just sort of go through the sections. Section 1, which is property taxes. We have to break our taxes as we collect them down into 3 categories. Future, which we call prepayments, those are collected between prior to July 1st, but they're for the current year. So anything we collected from January through June 30th of this year that were 21 taxes, not prior taxes, 21s are considered prepayments. So that amount is the $10,307.74. Then what we were calling the current year for this settlement, which is 2020, we had $44,920,556.79 collected. Delinquent taxes, as you'll see there, that's from 1996 through 2019, was $813,824.99 for a total of $45,744,689.52. There are also other tax-related charges you'll see listed down through there: the advertisement fee, garnishment, interest, landfill user fee senior, late list penalty, migrated landfill user fee, which is from the old tax system, migrated costs, miscellaneous costs, NSF penalties, which is return checks, and then the tax all year. So if you put all that together, we have collected $48,931,409.74. Then we go on to the vehicle tax system for the county only. We collected $25,849.75 in interest, and in tax, $5,567,806.77 in taxes, which gives us our total between the two of $5,593,656.52. Section 3, we're looking at property taxes and other charges for all other jurisdictions, and there we have collected $4,955,937.74. When we look at the tag and taxes for other systems, we have tax, interest, and then we have two different vehicle fees. Hickory has $5 per tag. Morganton has 20, so I broke those down into individual totals, which total together give us $2,094,120.77. Another part of this settlement here is the property tax that's charged back of delinquent taxes and related charges. So you can see there that we're charging back for the county $1,981,606.51. All other jurisdictions combined is $218,143.82 for a total of $2,199,750.33. And the chart below just breaks that out. Section 6 is property tax amount not charged back to the collector. So for the county, we have $73,468.97 not charged back. The all other jurisdictions is $12,227.83 for a total of $85,696.80. And these are broken down in the two charts below. Additional revenues collected, these are your rental vehicle for the county, also for the city of Hickory, occupancy tax, the occupancy late list penalties, occupancy filing penalties, beer and wine, late fees, beer and wine on and off premises. There we have a total of $662,295.55. The general statute also requires that we report the delinquent taxpayers for the previous year, which would be the 2020. And I've broken those down into to groups here. You'll see Section 8 is business personal property. There was 110 bills for a little over $25,000. Business personal property gap. A gap bill is whenever somebody renews their tag late from the time that the tag expired till the time they renewed it is a gap period. That we have to charge for. So in the business category, there was only 5 of those for about $61. Individual personal property, you see there's 821 bills. Individual gap, there was 727. The real property, there was 2,182. So in all, the delinquent taxpayers was around $722,232.67. Section 12 is just saying what we use to collect these delinquent taxes. We use debt set-off, we use bank attachment and garnishment, wage garnishment, foreclosure. And then my statement asking to the board to accept this report.
All right, thank you, Danny. Gentlemen, any questions on the summary of collections?
Question in general, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Danny, if we get double taxes if somebody trades car if I bought a new car and didn't like it, and went and bought another one next month, do I pay double taxes?
Now, if you can transfer the tag, if you don't transfer the tag, you buy a new tag, then you would take your tag on the first vehicle and turn it in at the tag office, and it can get prorated. You see those proration amounts are part of our vehicle tax.
Well, that tax has gone up a good bit in the last 3 or 4 years. People must be trading cars more
I
often.
think with the newer cars, and then if you, Commissioner Wall, we asked the question last meeting about the additional values, and if you look at what new cars and used cars are selling for today compared to 2 or 3 years ago, they're up. It's unusual for a vehicle to escalate in value, but this, I think everybody's seen this year, a lot of things have changed.
Yeah, the theory is used cars up about a third, and new cars are up 20%. So either way, you've got a huge increase on the
It's a
tax.
win-win for Burke County and the other counties in North Carolina.
Other questions, comments?
One question, Mr. Chairman. Danny, are we charging the 5 municipalities, are we on the same fee for collection, or have we upped that in the past?
Same fee for collection, would collect 1.5%.
1.5, okay, thank you.
That was, and that number, if you remember, was based off of what we were, on the old motor vehicle tax system, we were required to charge 1.5%.
Other comments, questions? All right, hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item 15, Tax Department, order to collect 2021 taxes.
Mr. Chairman, along with the settlement report, we're also, the governing board is required to order the tax collector to collect these taxes and tax records. So you'll see that county taxes and other charges for the delinquent side is $1,981,606.51. For all other jurisdictions is $218,143.82 for a total of $2,199,750.33. And like I say, there's a breakdown of this shown in the settlement report.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Any questions on this item? Get her done, Danny. Get her done. Item 16, Tax Department Tax Foreclosure Report, progress through June 2021.
Okay, this is update. As you know, we've used Kenya law for our delinquent collections. The first part of this report will just tell you a little bit about where we start with our collection process, from our bills to our delinquent notices. And then if I skip on down here, I say January of 2019, the tax office staff began sending delinquent taxpayer accounts to Kenya Law in Asheville for foreclosure action. Before beginning this legal process, Kenya gives the taxpayers one additional chance to pay. This begins with a demand letter sent by the certified mail to the taxpayer's last known address. And at that point in time, the taxpayer has 3 options. They can pay the bill in full. No further action is needed at that point in time. They can arrange a forbearance agreement. A forbearance is just a payment plan. This is a special payment arrangement between Kenya and the taxpayer, typically giving the taxpayer 4 to 6 months to make payments, which also include attorney's costs. Failure to comply with this agreement nullifies the agreement and the foreclosure process can begin. Or they can do nothing, just let the foreclosure process start. Also, Kenya and the tax office staff communicate several times a week, along with monthly status reports for the properties that they have. And I've included the one for June in this report. For this report, Richard Kenya was asked to report on the following: collections from the beginning to June 30th of 21. So since starting, we have collected $940,262.36. Collections for the year from the fiscal year from 7/1 of 2020 through 6/30. We collected, or in other words, last year, part of this settlement report, we collected $424,756.35. Also asking for an update on Burke Mountain Southeast, and at this point in time, it's still under Chapter 11 bankruptcy, so it sort of curtails us doing any work there. Update on other delinquent owners located in Pine Mountain. 6 lots were owned by Mountain Overlook. Those were sold in September. 2 of these have been sold to a third party, and there's still 4 remaining. So at this point in time, those 4 remaining, Burke County is still the high bidder on. Kenya would like to move forward with the other properties, but is hesitant with no bidders. Update on the court situation. I think you can see here, just put it in per what Mr. Kenya wrote down. The situation with the court has improved a bit. District Court is now holding court once per month instead of the previous once every 2 months. This has allowed us to schedule more hearings so we can obtain our judgments for sale. We've pushed the limit they limited us to 5 cases per court session, but we pushed it to 6 and 7, and now we have 8 scheduled for this month. But I think that's probably as far as we want to push it at this point in time. We have another 30 or so cases that are ready to go to judgment, but for now, that's all we can do. Schedule is 8 a month. Because of this bottleneck with the court, we have tried filling some of our more recent actions in Superior Court in order to give us the option of more court hearing dates. We've done this in other counties with no issue, but the Superior Resident Judge for Burke County pushed back on this and told us he does not want us filing tax foreclosures in Superior Court in order not to clog his docket. So those cases were remanded back to the District Court. In sum, we have lots of properties ready to go to sale as soon as we can obtain judgments from the court. But for this time being, it look as though we'll be limited to 8 a month. And I just put a note here that this bottleneck does delay our enforced collection procedures. Kenya, even though COVID-19 and judicial delays, have still managed to successfully collect delinquent taxes for Burke County. And in the chart here, I won't go into reading all this, but gives you the different dates that I have done updates on it, and the number of taxpayers, the cases closed, active parcels, and then the amounts collected. I'll be glad to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Danny. Gentlemen, any questions on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go first this time. Is Sliding Rock in the Burke Mountain Southeast development that's under foreclosure?
I'm not familiar with that one, but I will.
Okay, Sliding Rock's right beside.
That's the rock right beside.
Yeah, right beside the golf course. And
I'm
this
thinking that's under, I don't know what name that one's under.
Yeah, let's see if we can find out what name that one's under, because this is the time of year we start getting, the sheriff gets all the calls about the drug dealers and everybody down there and the drunks and everything and parking in the roads, and I've already got 4 or 5 telephone calls at home. Also, Mr. Chairman, as I look down here at this report from Kanye, because of the bottleneck with the court, and then it appears that the resident Superior Court judge doesn't want to bottleneck his court procedures, I'd like to ask you to have county manager and county attorney to see if we can't talk to the system here. If Kanye's not having any trouble in other counties, maybe if we can approach the judges again, see if we can move some of these forward. We've been waiting years. We all know how many years we've been waiting on this to get this foreclosed, and it appears that Kanye's ready to foreclose if they would give a little bit of leeway to do so. So if I would, if it's in our purview and if you agree, I'd like to see somebody talk to him again.
You took the words right out of my mouth, JR and Danny. What's our best approach to compel the district court or Superior Court to give us some more time? What's the best approach?
That's a question beyond me. I would have to defer to counsel.
JR, what's your thoughts?
Well,
Besides well,
I guess you could always sit down and talk with the chief district court judge, but if they're satisfied with the way things are going, I don't see that as changing much.
What is this is out of my purview, so what's the normal chain of command in the court system? I mean, if we address something to the chief district court, does a copy need to go to Raleigh, or where can we shake the tree? I guess is the tree shakeable?
Well, I think it shakes with the chief district court judge. He's sort of in control with the district's courtrooms, and if there's a way to make more time available, then he would be the person to talk to.
All right, Danny and JR, can y'all work together to draft something to go down that trail?
Sure.
That seem reasonable?
It's probably the most reasonable thing we can do, but I still think, I understand they run their courts, but commissioners are in charge of the county and what we need to do for some of those folks that have been unwilling to do their share for the county over the past almost 10 years that Danny has been dealing with this, and especially since we've started a lot of foreclosures in Pine Mountain, and the good folks down there have been more than helpful with us to get everything that we've needed to try to move forward with this. And I know our resident Superior Court judge probably doesn't want this to come through his court, but if that's where it needs to go to get some action done, I think we deserve to get some compliance also.
See if we can spell that out as best we can, gentlemen. Let's move forward with trying to get some action through the court system if we can. Any other questions on this item?
Mr. Chairman, if I just comment a little bit, and we are in a very difficult situation, but I would probably say to you, and I'm being bombarded with people who are not supposed to be on the property, sleeping at nighttime, et cetera, et cetera. But the point of it is that we have a country attitude now that you don't have to obey the law. We have a country attitude that you don't have to pay your bills. And until we turn that around a little bit, Danny, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot anybody can do about it, because it's sad, but too many of our citizens do not respect the law in the terms that it is written and or intended. It makes it difficult for the rest of us.
Other comments? JR and Danny, if when y'all get your heads together, if we need to schedule a meeting with myself, manager, if that's an avenue we need to go, please let us know what you think best. All right. Item 16 then will remain on the consent agenda. Mr. Manager, any word from the sheriff?
He's not going to be able to be here. Margaret can try to present that for him.
All right. Let's back up then to item 11, contract for inmate medical services. Gentlemen, you've had a chance to see this in your package. Any questions? And we'll see if Margaret can help us with that if need be, or we can get answers between now and our meeting if need be. Anybody have questions on this item?
Well, Mr. Chairman, it looked to me like the scope of service is going to remain the same, and the price and the cost of service is going to remain the same, so it doesn't look like there's going to be any difference in what we had last year, so I'm fine with it to remain on the consent agenda.
They've enjoyed the services, felt like they've gotten what they needed out of the company after the first year and a half. They feel good. The sheriff spoke to me Monday just in passing about this contract, and my only recommendation was that we consider making it auto-renewable for at least 2 years if they'll lock the price in for us, since they've already done that. And I think that as JR reviews the contract, that would be something we would request of Dr. Pilot to consider. Would he do it as at least one more year auto renewable so that we've already got his staff in place and the process in place, and changing over would give us some costs if we did change to a different company. And since we're very pleased with the price, we are seeing savings with not having to take inmates to the emergency room and some of those outside costs. He's able to do the x-rays and different processes in-house. It is saving us some money, so it's been a very good change to go this route. So that's my only recommendation to him, was to see if we could edit the contract to, instead of 1 year, make it a minimum 2, maybe 3 year, particularly if he would not change the price. But if he would, we would limit it to a CPI increase.
Everybody good with that? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple. Margaret, I'd like to know what that $318,000 a year, how many inmates do we average? What's the cost per inmate?
It varies based on the number of inmates we have at any given time. We're running approximately, I don't know the number of average inmates off the top of my head.
Somebody told me around 60. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what I've heard.
I was thinking it was higher than that, but it may not be much higher than that. I'm sorry. But it's a set cost regardless. So if we have 168, we're going to pay the same as if we have 60.
Say that again?
If we have 168 inmates in there, if we had a full house, we would pay the same as if we had an average of 60. This contract is not based on per inmate cost.
I realize that, but that's one of the governing rules that you can, or figures that you can use. But surely to goodness, we're not paying the highest premium if you were full than when you're not running but half full. That's not smart government in the least.
Gentlemen, that's paying for the availability of the medical staff to be there and see the patient.
Right, they have to have so much staff on hand to prepare for us. They don't change that based on our averages. So his contract is to cover all of that. But again, we are still actually paying less because we're not paying for all of those outpatient services we were paying previously through Burke. So it actually has ended up being a very good contract for us. You're right, certainly looking at a per inmate average cost.
So they're including outpatient calls with their fee. So how much did our costs go up per year when we did that?
It went down. It went down on average because it's a set, and we got a set price. It's no longer a variable. We could have years with Burke where we could have the last couple of years. 1 year we had as much as $500,000 we paid just through Burke to outside costs, not including the medical contract we were paying there. The cost can be significant if we have just some simple things, broken arms, things that might need an x-ray. They're able to do all that in-house now. The new jail has a lot more equipment than Burke did, or of course the downtown jail had none. So it's really been to our benefit, even with the lower numbers of inmates than we anticipated when we originally made the plan.
Excuse me, go ahead.
No.
So if I take 60, 65, divide into 318 and come up with my figure, and I call neighboring counties, and I could see how we compare on that cost.
It would depend on what services each of them has within their medical contract, but that would be one method.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, here none. This item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Margaret. This brings us to item 6, items for decision. I have one item for decision, Killed in Action Ownership and Maintenance Agreement. This will be presented by our County Manager, Brian Steen. And I think Mr. Ray, Mr. Jennings are here. Also, if there are any questions, this item, we'll see how this goes. We may want to move this to consent. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, gentlemen. We do have the distinct pleasure of having two career retired military members, excuse me, to be here to discuss this. Gary, career Air Force, and Champ was career Navy. If y'all want to tell them a little more about the monument, and we've got an overhead I think we can show for that. And basically they're saying this is getting ready to be set at the courthouse property, the historic courthouse property. I'm going to say somewhat just south of the current Civil War monument there. So, Sergeant Jennings.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I think most of you are aware of this memorial. I don't know what else to say that you don't already know. It has been etched. We had to send it out of state to get that done. It's back in the state, and we're just waiting for the concrete that was poured yesterday to set. And then we will contact Blue Ridge Monument and set up a date. Hopefully next week it will be put in place. Champ, do you have anything to add?
No. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions for Brian or Mr. Jennings?
No, I would just, if we may comment, appreciate all the hard work and the honor that you're doing those that were killed in action. We appreciate it. Should be complimented on your cause and your effort, purpose. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was an honor to do this for those young men that gave their lives and their families.
So, Mr. Jennings, with this, we've got some drawings. I had a hard time deciding where I thought exactly this was going, but is it going, kind of going to be facing south? Is that, if you were?
That's correct. It will be on the south side of the Civil War Memorial, 8 feet, and then it will be facing 90 degrees from that. The memorial itself, if you look at the two panels on either side, it's gone now. The rifle, the final tribute combat cross is what that's called. That's what I was trying to think of. Those are set at a 22-degree angle to the memorial itself. So if you look at me in the podium here, those two panels would be at a 22-degree angle. The rest of it would be square to the Civil War Monument, with the back of our memorial to the back side of the Civil War Memorial.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate your efforts in this and all that's been done to make this possible.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say to these two gentlemen, I really appreciate the fact that I see Commander Eric Crawford's name on here for the 9/11. It is very apropos to have his name on there, and I do appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, I would just say, the same thing, we're all unanimously been behind this, so, to me, this could go on the consent agenda.
Everybody good with this moving to consent?
Yes, I have no problem with it.
All right, Madam Clerk, we'll move this to the consent agenda. And that'll bring us, again, gentlemen, thank you for being here today, and thank you for all that you've done to work on this monument. This brings us to item 7, reports. I'll remind you to send your reports to the clerk for inclusion in the agenda packet. Spay and neuter your pets. We've got lots of pets, so you don't have to go shopping at PetSmart or anywhere. Just stroll down there to Animal Services. They can fix you right up. Continue to work on the litter. If you see it, pick it up, and please don't throw it out. Possible workshop for August the 24th on the American Recovery Program is not the right word. Is it program?
The rescue plan?
Rescue plan, there we go. The American Rescue Plan funds. Keep in mind suggestions. If you have those, bring those forward so we can include those. We've got a birthday coming up for our manager on the 19th of August. Remember that. County offices will be closed on September 6th for Labor Day. And we're going to September 7th recessed meeting at 4 p.m. That's also rescue plan. Is that our pre-agenda meeting, Madam Clerk?
That would be after pre-agenda.
Right. It'll be after that. After our pre-agenda, we'll continue on with that process. And then possible September 22nd, save the date for a workshop on the American Rescue Plan funding as well. Also, want to consider the adding of a presentation of an award to retiree to the regular agenda. This award was requested in the spring, but it's been delayed in arrival. Any problems with adding that to our meeting? Mr. Manager, you want to give us any updates today on COVID response changes maybe for our county staff and others?
Yes, sir. Gentlemen, a few weeks ago, I became aware of a matter down in Albemarle, North Carolina, where I had lived some years ago, and they had 9, and then it got, I think, to 10 of their fire department staff came down with COVID, which came out to be around 33% of their total fire department staff, and they couldn't man their stations. And they had to call in people from surrounding counties, towns to help them staff their station. I immediately shared this with my colleagues with Morganton and Valdez. They've got fire departments, police departments. I've shared this with our first responder department heads, as well as some other ones that I felt were critical. You know, if you had 25–30% of the finance department out for 3 to 6 weeks, we could be in a real bad way. We are also asking these department heads to chat with their employees, to encourage them to get the vaccination and or comply with any other recommendations to try to prevent people getting sick. We have an obligation to provide services, and I don't think telling them that there's not but 2 ambulances working in the county because the rest of them are out sick with COVID is going to be acceptable. So again, we're trying to do what we can. I do not want to mandate anything such as a shot, but I do hope that people will seriously consider when you take on being a deputy sheriff or a detention officer or an EMS and paramedic, that you are part of the critical foundation of the community. And sometimes it may be that you are asked to do something you might not be initially inclined to do for the betterment and well-being of the community that you serve. And this we are pursuing. We're also keeping up with information, occupational health, a few other odds and ends to make sure that we provide as safe a workplace as possible and still be reasonable in what we're asking people to do. And I just wanted to share that with you. I appreciate this opportunity.
All right, thank you, Brian. Anything else that needs to come before the board?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I want to take a moment to recognize Madam Clerk. She has once again done a yeoman's job of getting all the commissioners set to go to the NCACC convention. I think all the rooms are secured. Reservations have been made and payments have been made for excursions. Any commissioners that wants to take those, I look forward to the convention this year in Wilmington, where my friend Frank Williams from Brunswick County will be the incoming new president. Also, congratulations to our vice chair this morning, who was elected as our new District 13 director for NCACC. We welcome you onto the executive board, my friend. It's very nice. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Johnny and Scott, for your willingness to serve and for all that you do for our statewide association. It's very important, and we do appreciate your efforts and your work. Hearing nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those no. It's all of us.